Now that we understand Kenya is on the throes of systemic capture, as defined by the neoliberal policies of Mwai Kibaki, it is time now we truly analyze presidential candidates. A lot of you have asked me then, what is the solution? So we are going to start solutions from what we call the political solutions, what is available to us. And if we are going to look at what is available to us, then we have to look at the candidates who have presented themselves. And the analysis is going to be very straightforward. Their form, in terms of who they are, how they came to be, and what they have been. That is their form. The second one is their policies, what they are purporting to present, so that we don't just dwell on slogans. We don't dwell on good feeling. And third, but finally, their political party. Because the political machinery that is used to capture Kenya, we know is part of political parties, is part of political alliances. Therefore, with whom they align will determine for Kenyans how much is stolen, because the corruption industrial complex thrives on what you call that stabilization. A lot of people came here and said, well, Kibaki came and stabilized the economy. No, he created a political alliance with everybody so that there was no opposition. There was nobody he could oppose, and gave MPs illegal money under CDF so that now they could be silent in parliament. Therefore, it is very important for us then to look at their political party and their form. So it's not just policies, it's not just the slogan, it is the person, the man, the woman, who they are, how they've come. So we are going to start with the most neoliberal creature, political creature in Kenya, and that is Jimi Wanjigi. Jimi Wanjigi has grown out of nowhere and nothing. He is a billionaire who has not had jobs and no productive units available to Kenya. This is the true definition of a neoliberal shrill. This is the animal that is born out of a country that produces nothing, that is having accelerated, quote-unquote, growing GDP, and yet the people are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. Jimi Wanjigi is the true beneficiary of Kibaki's neoliberal policies. Indeed, he has had scandals originating from the Kibaki government, because at that time the state capture was very much in contracting and subcontracting and subletting and Anglo-leasing and all these other problems that have come out of a government that collects taxes, but its people are not allowed to do anything. So they subcontract, they do PPPs, they give tenders to people. And there we have the perfect child, it's the grandchild, the child of Kibaki's policy, that is Jimi Wanjigi. So what is his form? That is his form. He is a true neoliberal shrill. He is the person who is very keen to take from nothing. He believes in building skies in the castles in the air and calling it development. He is these people who are coming here to talk about increased GDP and economic growth, while during Kibaki, within that time, inflation tripled. Something we had not seen. Bread, things used to rise by 1 shilling a year. At most 0.50 cents. Under Kibaki, things doubled and actually went 3 times. Bread went from 10 shillings to 27 in less than 10 years. That is how bad inflation is, because that is what happens when you are consuming, and you are not producing. You have no import duty. And that is also what leads to the suppression of the people who have import duty. You find the government over-regularizes this. They want to be brokers, and other brokers get in, particularly banks. We are seeing now that with tea farmers. Why do you think they are so squeezed? We are seeing that with our mining and minerals. Why do you think Kenyans don't seem to find a way to play? Because now this is the only thing available for Kenyans to steal. And it is even being sold in its natural format. So let us then look at Jimi Wanjigi's policies, because from those policies we can define, we can determine, we can be able to see, yes, this is true neoliberal shrilling. It is 1 + 1 is equals to 50, 500. This is what he wants to sell. So Jimi Wanjigi has something known as FIST. Fiscal accountability. So he's talking about auditing debts and dealing with debts by now. And we've done this talk. You know that debt is less than 1% of Kenya's problem. What we have borrowed is so little compared to what can be given, what can be harnessed from Kenya. The problem of Kenya is the sovereignty given to 3 entities. Number 1, the colonial entities, including the land things that have never been addressed. So we have a lot of colonialists operating in Kenya, extracting. The tea we have spoken about, the minerals, they're in those conservancies. That is Kenya's problem. The wealth of Kenya is not enjoyed and even done and transacted by Kenyans. You go to tourism and the like. That's the first one. Second one, the neo-colonial powers that be. And the neo-colonial powers are in three formats: churches, NGOs, international development partners, and foreigners. These foreign development partners are now making part of our policies. They come, they say healthcare, yet they want private healthcare, and they take taxpayer money, they use it to expand and build. It's like capital into their institutions. You saw what Kibaki did, right? He took Kenya's empowerment development funds for youth, for what? He gave it to private banks. Yet Kenya has had public banks. National Bank of Kenya consolidated. A couple of public institutions were not given that money. No, it was given to the businesses, to the local ingrown institutions. Those are private. The third one is now the NGOs. From there, when the government became a zombie government, where it never does anything, these services, especially extension services, healthcare services, and ECD and education services, the social goods, so that it doesn't look like the country is falling apart, NGOs came because it was important for them to come, create a resource scarcity, a delivery scarcity. Right now, people don't even now know what extension services look like anymore. They don't know what free public healthcare, not this thing that is being sold, looks like. They're not calling it universal because there is co-payment, there is co-payment, there is co-payment. That is the government. And the fourth one is now, they make the policies. These policies push for subsidies. They never push, they push for more money to be given. They push for privatization. And finally, the third thing that Kibaki did that also Jimi is promoting under fist is now foreigners. One of the things people said is, let's praise Kibaki because he grew the economy very fast. He didn't. He opened the public money, put it into private so that it looked like things were moving. More factories were opening, not factories, more businesses, banks, insurance. But factories were closing down, but they took time to close. So when foreigners come, they come here, they want you to make the roads for them. They want the policies to be for them. That is why KEPSA, all these institutions grew. While our productive capacity is growing, foreigners do that. They come and create monopolies. They do national program on agriculture by the government, funded by the government. We have seen that with fertilizer, with carbon credits. Then they are the ones now to become the ones to sell carbon. Fertilizer. You saw what they did with KCC. They put a lot of money looking into dairy. Then you get another. Well, you get monopolies coming up. We are naming names sometimes, but it is a monopoly in the milk dairy sector and so on and so forth. So Kenyans, that is just so that people can say we are growing very fast. Who are we competing with? Why do we want to compete with nations? For example, all Western nations grew by colonialism. You grow, if you want to look at how a country grows in itself, look at China. You close yourself off. You grow at your speed. You grow your people. You grow their skills. You grow your economy. You grow your internal politics. They should not be dictated by outsiders who only want to make you feel inferior so that now they bring, what did they bring? Their cheap imports and their mitumba. So bringing foreign investors in Kenya, while we are not ready, we are politically incapable, where we are a mess, while we are already occupied. Remember, the colonialists of 1800 have never left, while the neo-colonial people, the feudalism, where we are unable to process, wanakuja hapa kufanya nini? They are coming us to make us slave wages. They will come with their big companies. Right now, you saw what happens with the monopolies, with the privatizations of things, even like Kenya Power and all this. What happened? Workers stopped having rights. Government workers, very few now have health insurance, housing insurance, housing support, all this transportation. It's no longer given. Some of it is even subcontracted. You work for an institution, but you are subcontracted. They pay you 50, but wewe unapatanga 20K. That is how they have started being. And that is what happens when you create monopolies and foreigners take over. You've seen brokers like the taxi hailing companies, they are the ones who have come to take over. Look at what they've done to the economy. We used to have functioning transport, public transport that was available to people. If this is what we are calling foreign investment, it is them coming to harvest our money, making us slave wages so that they can maximize profits because everybody doesn't have a job. So we will take whatever they give us. That is Jimi Wanjigi, the true neo-colonial shrill. Finally, his political party, it has not developed a mechanism for production. There is nothing in their manifesto that talks about closing the markets. There is nothing in their manifesto about closing parallel programs, including NGOs, religious institutions, and others who are offering the same things as government and enjoying public money. He hasn't talked about anything to destroy the neoliberal fabric set by Kibaki, and that was Jimi Wanjigi is the first